Hello and welcome to Investigating Iowa. My name is Sarah. I'm so excited you're here for our mystery week this week. We are uploading 5 cases of our neighbor's story, and that will be Sunday through Wednesday and then again on Friday. The reason we're skipping Thursday is because we have the Born and Raised series that is starting, and I'm so excited for that. So definitely stay tuned for all of that content. I just want to warn you that I accidentally turned on my dishwasher right before I started filming, and I don't know why I made that genius decision, but it's going right now. So if you hear any weird noises in the background, it's probably just that. Hopefully it's just that. But I also want to say that these cases I'm going to be covering for the next 3 episodes are all things that happened around the same time period in the Cedar Rapids area. And so there's actually an article that was done by the Cedar Rapids Gazette kind of saying that it's weird that these 3 women went missing under similar circumstances in this area. So just acknowledge that as we go through the next couple of cases. I do want to just have my quick disclaimer where I say I mean no disrespect to any of the family or the people that I'm talking about. I am just collecting this information through articles and case files and videos and such online just to make one video so I can inform all of you guys on the case. So Jane Hallberg was born in the Minneapolis area in 1948. She wasn't originally from Iowa, but she decided to move to Iowa to Sioux City to go to Morningside College with her best friend Carol. While she enrolled in her first year of college in 1966, she decided to get a job at the Sioux City Public Museum where she met John Wakefield, who would soon become her husband. The summer after her freshman year, Jane actually decided to move in with John in Sioux City. John was a graduate student at the University of Iowa, which for those who don't know, the University of Iowa is almost halfway across the state, if not a little bit further. And so she decided to actually switch colleges to go to the University of Iowa with John, and they actually got married in September of 1967. In 1970, Jane graduated from the University of Iowa with a teaching degree and started teaching locally in different school districts. In March 1975, Jane filed for divorce against John, and a couple months later in August, she took a new job in the Iowa City area, and she actually moved out of her and John's home to a mobile home park. She then started a new relationship with a new man. This brings us to September 6, 1975. It was a Saturday, and Jane was on a cross-country bike trip with some of her friends, and she told them she needed to get back for an appointment she had. She then went to her home where she ran into a neighbor, and the neighbor said that they had a conversation and nothing seemed out of the ordinary or unusual, and she just went about her day. But later that night, some neighbors said that they heard some screaming and yelling, and they couldn't tell where it was coming from. But one of them just assumed that it was a local party that just was getting a little too loud. On the following Sunday, a friend came over to Jane's house to talk to her, and they knocked on the door, but nobody answered. The friend just left, assuming she wasn't home, but actually Jane had gone missing. Then Monday came around, and Jane didn't show up for work, which they found very odd. And so the principal actually called the mobile home manager, and the mobile home manager then called Jane's then boyfriend at the time, and the manager and the boyfriend went to go check out her home. When they got to her home, they found that her bike was locked up in the yard, her car was in its parking spot, and when they went inside, her keys, her wallet, her purse, all of that personal kind of stuff you keep on you was inside the home. So they called authorities. The authorities came to inspect, and actually they found everything that the manager and the boyfriend found, but they also said that they had sufficient evidence that Jane had just gotten out of the shower when she went missing. I'm not sure how you find that with sufficient evidence, given that it had been a couple days, but that's what the report had claimed. So in the beginning investigation, police believed that she went with the Jesus People cult, who had been in the area at that time and had recently left. I am not sure how they made that connection, but all of her friends and family said that that is not Jane. Jane would have never gone with a cult. She was not interested in anything at that time. And so when police went to investigate that area that the cult had been in, they didn't find any evidence of Jane. And so that just kind of ruled out that thought process or that lead that they thought they had. On September 10th, the police actually drained a couple lagoons near the trailer that she lived in, but they didn't find anything. In January of 1976, about 4 months after Jane's disappeared, somebody comes forward to police saying that they know who's done it. They say that their friend or acquaintance had actually confessed to them that they had killed Jane. So this person who came forward wanted to come forward and stay anonymous to the public, and so they became a confidential informant for police, and who they were talking about became a prime suspect. So I'm just going to go forward calling it the prime suspect. This person said that they had gone and rented a car from the Cedar Rapids airport and drove it down to Iowa City. They said they got a car that was very similar to what Jane's boyfriend had at the time, trying to divert suspicion onto Jane's boyfriend. And later on, he would try and divert suspicion onto Jane's ex-husband or soon-to-be ex-husband as well. He drove the car down to Jane's home and strangled her with his bare hands in her home. He then took her body and put it into the trunk of the car and drove it to the ex-husband's apartment complex. He put the body into the incinerator, the garbage incinerator, and put a bunch of coal in there and lit it on fire. After the fire was done burning, he took all the contents of that fire, so all that ash, and put it into a garbage bin, in which he put back into the vehicle and drove down to I-80 by Iowa City. He then took the contents of these garbage bins and dumped them all over the ditch in this I-80 stretch that he was on. And I just find that kind of hard to believe, just because I-80 is so busy. I can't imagine that somebody didn't see him do this, but apparently he went unnoticed. The confidential informant actually underwent a lie detector test to see if he was lying about everything he told police about his friend or acquaintance, and he actually passed it. And I know this is kind of controversial because some people believe that lie detector tests are something that they can swear on, but some people believe that they aren't credible and they actually can't be used in most courts. That same January, the police got a bunch of search warrants. They were going all over the place. They were at John Wakefield's place of business. He actually had 2 businesses he ran. They also went to the main suspect's place of work, and they also went to the garbage incinerator that was in the apartment complex. The police sifted through all the contents of the garbage incinerator, and they found a couple of fragments of what they believed to be bones, and they also found metal that they believed to be a tooth filling. They sent it into a lab to be further investigated and looked at, and it turns out that the results became inconclusive. They couldn't figure out whose bones they belonged to. In the following weeks, 20 different detectives actually scoured the ditches of I-80. They were on their hands and knees looking for anything they could find. But there wasn't enough sufficient evidence to keep up the case against the prime suspect, and they never criminally charged him. In 1982, Jane was legally declared dead, and that's all I have on this case. I have a really hard time with this case because I find it so difficult to believe that nobody saw him on the side of I-80. For those who don't know Iowa, I-80 is the busiest road. It has so much traffic, and I know that this was in the 1970s, but I cannot imagine it not being crazy busy on that interstate either. It's the entire stretch of Iowa, and so there's always semis and trucks and people driving that stretch of land to go to another state or anything. Like, I am having a very hard time. I'm having a very, very hard time believing that nobody saw this man dumping mysterious contents out of a garbage bin into the ditch. First of all, did nobody think about littering? I know it was the 70s, but did nobody think that this man is just throwing his trash into the ditch and find that weird? Also, if anybody is stopped on the side of I-80, I just can't imagine an Iowan not stopping and seeing if they were okay. Like, there's been times I've pulled over to the side and people stop and ask, like, are you okay? Do you need any help? Like, and I just can't imagine that not happening in this case, unless he went, like, literally in the middle of the night. I have the Iowa City Police Department phone number on the screen. If you know anything or you've seen anything or heard anything. Even as we know from this case, this man confessed to his acquaintance about it. So if you know anything or heard anything, please, please, please come forward. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Cases of Our Neighbors. I really hope you join us for the rest of the week. We have 2 more cases that happen in the Cedar Rapids area at that approximate time. And there are also 2 women whose families really want answers as well. But please come back for that. I ask you to be respectful in the comments section, and we'll see you next time.